They all thought I was just another old man trying to keep up with the bright lights and fine clothes of the wedding hall. I could see it in their eyes, the way they glanced at my scuffed shoes, the way they dismissed the modest gray suit I had worn for years, the way their laughter softened when I walked past as though my presence pulled the energy from the air. To them, I was a nobody. A father of the groom with little more to offer than a handshake and polite smile. But what none of them knew was that I carried a secret worth $85 million. It was locked away, silent, invisible, hidden even from my own son. A fortune I had built brick by brick, dollar by dollar, in a life of relentless work. And I had chosen not to reveal it, not yet. Not because I feared greed or jealousy, but because I wanted to see, with my own eyes, who would treat me with respect when they believed I had nothing. The hall glimmered with chandeliers that bathed everything in golden light, tables draped in white silk, crystal glasses clinking, expensive perfumes floating through the air like invisible clouds. The music swelled with violins and piano, and guests danced gracefully across the floor, their jewels catching the light. I sat at a round table near the edge, watching it all, holding a simple glass of water. Champagne was flowing like rivers, but I didn't need it. I wanted clarity, not intoxication. When my son, Daniel, walked down the aisle earlier that day, pride filled me to the point of breaking. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and his tuxedo fit him perfectly. But more than his appearance, it was the look in his eyes, the way he saw his bride, the way his lips trembled when he said his vows. That was the man I had raised. Humble, sincere, and driven by love, not greed. He believed I was nothing more than a working man who had lived simply. And in many ways, I was. But behind that simplicity was a carefully guarded truth I had shielded him from, because I never wanted him to rely on wealth to define him. As he introduced me to his bride's family, her father shook my hand without meeting my eyes. His palm was soft, his grip weak, but his smirk was sharp enough to cut through my patience. He gave me one of those smiles people give when they've already judged you and found you lacking. I noticed the way he looked down at my tie, a faded navy blue one I had worn to several important occasions in my life. It wasn't silk, it wasn't from Italy, and to him, it wasn't worthy. He quickly excused himself, turning his attention to another guest, someone who wore a Rolex thick enough to flash across the room. Her mother was no different. Draped in gold and diamonds, she gave me a thin-lipped smile as though acknowledging me was a chore. When I told her she looked beautiful, she responded with a distracted, "Thank you," her eyes already scanning the room for someone else to impress. It didn't hurt me, but it revealed everything I needed to know. People like her measured worth not in kindness, not in respect, but in appearance, wealth, and status. But not everyone was blind. A young bridesmaid, no older than 20, passed by and smiled at me without hesitation. She asked if I was comfortable, if I needed anything to drink, if the seat was good enough for me to see the dance floor. Her kindness was simple, unforced, genuine. I thanked her, and she hurried off, not knowing her small act had warmed me more than any gold necklace could. And then there was the waiter. A boy in his early 20s, sleeves rolled up, sweat on his forehead as he carried trays heavier than himself. He noticed I wasn't drinking wine and brought me fresh water without being asked. Every time he passed, he nodded respectfully, even when no one else was watching. That boy had more dignity in his service than many of the so-called powerful men in the room had in their expensive suits. Still, it was the bride who surprised me most. My new daughter-in-law, Anna. When Daniel introduced us, her face lit up with warmth. She didn't shake my hand like a stranger, she hugged me like I was already her father. Her perfume was soft, not overwhelming, and when she pulled away, her eyes met mine without flinching. She called me, Dad. Not, Mr. Harris, not, Sir, not even, father-in-law. Just, Dad, one word, but it hit me harder than the sound of the wedding bells. During the reception, when I sat alone, she left her friends on the dance floor, walked straight to me, and adjusted the boutonniere on my jacket. She knelt slightly so she was at my eye level and whispered, "You look very handsome tonight." For a moment, I forgot about my secret. For a moment, I believed wealth didn't matter, because here was someone who saw me not as a wallet, not as an accessory to her new life, but as family. I glanced across the room at her parents. They were watching her with disapproving eyes, whispering to each other. I knew exactly what they were saying, that their daughter had married beneath her. That she deserved more, deserved someone with wealth, status, someone from a family that could match theirs in arrogance and display. They thought they were whispering low enough that I couldn't hear, but I had trained my ears in boardrooms and negotiations. Their words were sharp daggers, but instead of piercing me, they only fueled my quiet smile. Because they didn't know that the man they dismissed, the man they whispered about, the man they barely acknowledged, could buy and sell their entire world 10 times over. And that secret, that hidden truth, gave me power beyond anything money could buy. The night carried on with speeches and laughter. The bride's father stood proudly, raising his glass high, boasting about his family's accomplishments, their business, their vacations in Europe, their properties across the country. He looked at me as he spoke, as if daring me to match his words. I stayed silent, sipping my water. What he didn't realize was that true wealth doesn't need to scream, it whispers. It sits quietly in the corner, waiting for the right moment. As the dancing began, I sat back and observed. I watched who approached me and who avoided me. Some nodded politely, their eyes darting elsewhere before their lips could even form a proper smile. Others didn't bother at all, as though I were invisible. But a few, just a few, came with genuine kindness. Daniel's college friend shook my hand firmly and thanked me for raising a man like him. The best man clinked glasses with me and said he admired the values my son carried. And, of course, Anna returned again and again, checking on me, making sure I wasn't alone. By the end of the night, I wasn't angry at the coldness of the others. No, I was grateful. Grateful that they had revealed themselves so clearly, without me having to ask. Grateful that my son had married a woman who loved not just him, but his family, without judgment. And grateful that when the time came, when the truth spilled out, I would know exactly who had earned a place in my life and who had only earned my silence. And as I sat there, watching my son and his bride share their first dance under the shimmering chandeliers, I knew that this night was more than just a celebration of love. It was a test, and already, the results were pouring in.